Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Manitou Springs City Council to order. This is regular meeting for November the 19th, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the city clerk please call the roll?
City council members Drew Chandler, John Shada, Julie Wolf. Here. Natalie Johnson. Here. Michelle Weatherholt. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune.
Present.
And Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. Okay, so next item is approval of the agenda. Council, you've all had a chance to look over the agenda, so I would look for a motion to approve.
I move approval of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Elena, how do you want us to vote electronically? Electronically, let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. The tonight's agenda is approved. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. This is the time when anyone in the audience is welcome to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to something tonight? Elena, did we receive anything? Okay, apparently there being no interest in that item, we'll move on. Next item, item F, is our consent calendar, which is fairly lengthy tonight. First item is presentation of warrants. The second is approval of the October 15th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes. Item 3 is requesting approval of a contract with Lando Construction LLC for the Midland Water and Sewer Project. Item 4, request to switch mobility and parking board member Pamela Smith from alternate to regular member status. Then we have 3 items that are of similar ilk. These are land donations. Item 5, consider adopting resolution number 2024, a resolution of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, approving a land donation agreement and authorizing the acceptance of the donation of a parcel of real property with El Paso County Assessor parcel number 74053-19-015. Item 6, essentially the very similar item. It's resolution 2124, different parcel. That parcel number is 74053-19013. And item 7, again, a land donation. This is resolution 2224, and it addresses parcel number 74053-14-008. And all 3 of these parcels are undeveloped land, small lots up on the side of Red Mountain, approximately the vicinity of Inman Trail. Then we have item 8. This is consider adoption of resolution number 1924, a resolution of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, supporting a grant application to the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the city's Mesa Water Tank Rehabilitation Project and authorizing execution of a grant agreement upon award of the grant. And item 9, consider adoption of resolution 1724, a resolution approving and adopting the 6th amended and restated establishing intergovernmental agreement, IGA, for the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority, PPRTA. So if there's any item that a council member would like to take off the consent calendar, discuss separately, we can do that. And if not, I would look for a motion to approve and accept the consent calendar.
Mayor, I move approval of all 9 items on the consent calendar.
Thank you. We have a second from Michelle. Okay, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. I think we just made history. That's, I think, the longest list of items ever covered in that amount of time. So congratulations, we'll move on. Next item is a hearing. It's the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 0924, an ordinance establishing a schedule of fees and charges and otherwise establishing a rate structure for the city water and sewer services. And first we'll hear from our finance director, Becca Davis, and then there will be a public hearing. Becca, you have the floor.
Good evening. Rebecca Davis, Finance Director for the City of Manitou Springs. So Per municipal code section 13.16.010B, the water rates are based upon rate studies. Our most recent rate study establishes rates for 2025 through 2029, and it was prepared by FCS Group. And Melanie Hobart, she was the project manager for this project.
Becca, could you move the microphone just a little closer there? I think that'd help.
How's
Thank you.
that?
I think that's better. Yes, thank you.
Ah, okay. She was the project manager for our rate study, and she's attending the meeting by Zoom tonight. I asked her to do this in case there were questions. And that really is my presentation. So now I'm ready to answer any questions, and hopefully Melanie's there. We can bring her over. She can answer the questions that are of a more technical nature.
Okay. The council, certainly this is an opportunity for questions and comments. We will follow this with the public hearing. And after that, we will come back and have an opportunity to quiz Becca and Melody again. So if you have anything right now, we can do that. I think we had to address this both in a workshop and in a previous meeting. So
That's correct.
our curiosity may be pretty well satisfied. Anything from council? Well, let's go ahead and do the public hearing. I suspect that's going to be short. Okay, I will declare this portion of the meeting to be a public hearing for the ordinance under consideration. If there's anyone who would like to speak to it, this is your opportunity. We have any interest? Have we received anything, mail or email?
No, Mayor.
Okay. I guess it's not a very exciting topic. Okay, apparently we have no interest in public comment, so I will close the public hearing. And we are, council members, if in the last 30 seconds you develop a question, I guess this is a good time to ask it. If not, I would seek a motion. Nancy, please.
I move to approve ordinance number 0924, an ordinance establishing a schedule of fees and change charges and otherwise establishing a rate structure for city water and sewer services on second reading.
Second that.
Thank you. And seconded by Councilwoman Chandler. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Becca and Denise, and be sure to thank staff. I realize this is quite a bit of work. Melody, thank you. That was quick.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to business item H1. Consider appointing T. Glenn Bosley Mitchell to the Housing Advisory Board as a regular member. Okay, we have Allison Gerbig.
Hi there.
And-
Good evening, council members. Allison Gerbig, Housing Advisory Board Chair, 314 Terrace Place. I'm here because I'm recommending two applicants for the Housing Advisory Board. The first is Glenn, and Glenn has expressed willingness to join our board. He has attended 2 HAB meetings. He attended one when he was just considering if this would be a good opportunity. And then he attended a second one after he had submitted his application. Glenn has also volunteered with me. Last Saturday, we presented, had a table at the Manitou Springs Environmental Fair where we were promoting our energy efficiency rebate program, and Glenn joined me, so that was really awesome. He has the passion for the work, and I'm grateful for his application, and I ask for your support to appoint him to join HAB. And I don't know if you have questions for Glenn or anything that you need from him.
Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate to give Glenn a chance to speak, and then we may have questions for you, but floor is yours, Glenn.
Thank you. My wife and I moved here to Manitou in 2017. She served about 5 years as a pastor of the Community Congregational Church just up the street from here. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor. I did 42 years of ministry in the the Florida area of the United Methodist Church. I was doing some graduate school in 1978 in Denver. And it was on my bucket list to move back to Colorado after I finished that schoolwork. And 2017, we had the opportunity to come here. So I'm glad to be in Colorado and be here in Manitou Springs. I looked around at the different boards and commissions to see where might be a way I could serve. And the Housing Advisory Board was really an opportunity, I think, to really make some impact in the city, and would like to serve with that and talk to Allison about that, and glad to be presented to be on that board.
Great, thank you. Open up to questions or comments from council. Anybody have anything? Judith?
Just one quick question. So you like to be addressed as Glenn? I just noticed on your resume and your application materials that your name is T. Glenn. So I just want to make sure we address you appropriately.
Sure, Glenn's great. I go by my middle name, so computers want that first name. So when I was in college, I added the T instead of being like Thomas is what it is. So Glenn's great.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, barring any further comments, I would look for a motion.
I move to approve Glenn to join the Housing Advisory Board as a regular member.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much. Okay, Allison, put him to work.
I will. He's already, like I said, he's already.
Okay, good.
So thank you. The second person that I have is on virtual, Rebecca Allen. Her name, she does have an Anna in her name. And from what I understand from speaking with Rebecca, that Rebecca is your preferred name, correct? Yeah, okay. We'll put you, make sure you're on. Anyway, Rebecca and I spoke several times before she chose to apply to the board. She attended one HAB meeting. And I think some of the things that I most appreciate about Rebecca is that she represents a Manitou Springs renter, which we don't have on our board. And she comes with great experience in like housing efforts. Her employed work is with Habitat for Humanity. So I greatly recommend her and hope that you also approve. And I will give the floor to Rebecca if she wants to tell a little bit about herself. She is homesick, so that's why she's on the virtual screen.
Yeah, Becca, this will be an opportunity for you to make any comments.
Oh, Rebecca, we can't hear you. I don't know. He said that you're unmuted, but I don't know. But you do have her resume and you should have her cover letter. And as I said, she has also served on another Manitou Springs board and just felt like serving on the Housing Advisory Board would give her a greater opportunity to utilize her skills and her passions for housing, especially as a renter in Manitou. Does that seem correct? Yep. We still can't hear you. They're saying, okay. I know she's attended our board using her computer, but maybe it's just one of those. Okay. I'm sorry if you can't ask her any questions. They said you could try your phone, Rebecca, if you wanted to call in, or is she able to put anything in the chat or? Okay. Okay. All right. Are you going to try to zoom in on your phone? Okay.
Guess maybe while we're waiting, do we have council members with questions or comments? Judith?
Just a comment. I know of Rebecca through her grant writing chops. And so I just want to say these two candidates that you're presenting to serve on the board have outstanding backgrounds and great resumes. And I think that they'll be awesome on the Housing Advisory Board.
Thank you. I agree.
If, I'm wondering here, I mean, it'd be nice, yeah, if she could make contact, but I don't know that it's essential. My sense is probably council's close to a motion, but I don't want to second guess council. Michelle?
I move that we appoint Rebecca Allen to the Housing Advisory Board as a regular member.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Counselor Chandler? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
board. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jan.
For council members, sorry.
I guess Rebecca's gone, but let her know that we appreciate her stepping up in service. And if she wants to talk to us sometime, she's got 3 minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item H3, first reading of ordinance number 1224, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and appropriating funds for fiscal year 2025 and amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2024. And again, we have our finance director, Becca Davis. And we've gone over this a couple of times, but certainly in the workshop, but Becca.
Good evening again. So this has been a long process, which started the first week in August when department heads began meeting with the city administrator and myself to discuss the next year's budget. And tonight is the culmination, the first reading of the ordinance approving the 2025 budget and the final amended 2024 budget. And of course, this is just first reading. So the general fund's unassigned fund balance is being forecasted to have an ending 2025 balance of about $5,699,000. Now, this is 39.19% of the general fund's expenditures without the capital improvement portion, which is around 994,000. It does include the portion that we transfer to the cap. Wow, I am having trouble this time. Yeah. Oh, I think that's what I've done differently. I've always had it right in front of me and I was trying to side angle here. So it's, we're transferring over about $1.4 million to the capital improvement fund. And of that, about 400,000 for debt. And then the rest is for capital. And that's not included in the expenditures when we figure out the amount of unassigned fund balance and how long it can cover expenditures. But 39.19 is a good number. It's a good percentage. And that's what I have to say about that. And now I will entertain questions.
Council, questions? Julie?
Does the fund balance ending in 2025 take into account the marijuana vote in Colorado Springs?
Good question. It does not. So it looks like we will have to be bringing the budget back probably in the first half of the year to amend it.
Denise?
Mayor, I think there's still some question about that. If they're going to have to go through planning, get a new CUP. There's a lot of questions that we don't know. We don't have answers to. We've called this state to figure out what this means. And if that means that they'll be opening in 2025 or if they'll have to wait till 2026. As you know, their council passed another ordinance so there's a lot of questions yet. I recommend that about March, hopefully March or April, we have a better sense of what's going to happen.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. Julie, is that a good answer for you or you want?
Yeah,
go
no,
deeper?
that's a good answer. I think, I don't necessarily agree about wait till March or April part of the commentary, but that's a good answer to know that this estimate does not take into account the fact that we may lose half of our income because of the marijuana taxes. So I think it's important to have some estimates prepared for us the way it was done in the past when we were concerned about raising the taxes and we wanted to know how that would impact things. And I think it was Neil Mitch and John Shada who gave us some of their statistical analysis, but I think we should have some analysis on how much might we lose next year? And if so, how best to prepare for that?
And then the other question is that city council of Colorado Springs passed an ordinance where basically the retail marijuana could be only sold on the east side of town.
Oh, I
So,
just don't know, but I'm not comfortable just saying we really don't know what they're gonna do, so let's do nothing and pretend that the law didn't get passed. But at the same time, it's difficult, obviously, to guess how that will impact us specifically in 2025, if at all. But I feel like we should be prepared to look at where to cut if we have to cut, and
Mhm.
what would those cuts look like, and how much, might we anticipate specifically for 2025? We may lose over $1 million. We need to figure out what's going to be cut, and I think it would behoove us or help us to find out, just even to respond as a hypothetical, if we're gonna lose $1 million or $1.5 million next year, I want to know from Denise, what does she think she should cut? So
No, I think
I want
that's,
to have some discussion on that.
okay. Um,
I just didn't know if staff could maybe put together some numbers and, bring it back to us for discussion prior to or at the second reading.
okay, Natalie, please.
So I think we're all thinking that this is really important that we address this, but I'm comfortable moving forward with this budget with the understanding that early next year we have a conversation about what information we'd like. I know that the timeline and deadlines that we need to meet, and again, just the time of staff during the holiday season probably preclude us from really diving in the way that we need to. And I'm comfortable doing that early next year.
Right. Thank you. And I guess, okay, John, go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of like Julie. I've been looking at that 300 and looking at the state numbers. And I guess, Becca, I was wondering, I know that when we were looking at our revenues and whatnot, the granularity that you were showing as in, I think you had a slight decrease in sales tax, right?
right, I'd
And you
reduced,
don't, and you didn't sort of, show which one of those things that kind of roll up in the sales tax, was driving, your estimate, right?
right, the sales tax was pretty much based upon that 5-year forecast that we worked up. Neil mentioned and Ann Nichols, I met with them
Right.
and so, but this was based, the decrease was based upon city of Colorado Springs still not allowing retail marijuana. So this decrease is not enough. The only problem is though, is that we have to have a budget approved before December 15th, or we can't certify the mill levy. And then we would be faced with using last year's mill levy with a per cut down to 90% of it, if I remember correctly. The El Paso County just arbitrarily cuts. If you don't approve your mill levy by December 15th and certify it, then they're going to cut it
Well,
from what it was.
Well, I'm not concerned that we're not going to approve the budget. What
Okay.
I'm just asking is that what was the apologetics in terms of that general sales tax category? And given that there's been a 13% reduction in retail marijuana sales statewide, okay, and I was running the numbers in terms of up to this point, in terms of what the state was already seeing, and they're already seeing at least that amount of reduction as a running rate for what they're reporting statewide and even El Paso County. So I'm just wondering whether our notwithstanding, what was going on tonight, my rough calculations is that we're probably in the hole by about $1.3 million next year is what I'm estimating is going to be the reduction
With the,
in the general sales tax category that includes, the retail marijuana.
with the
portion.
new reality.
Exactly.
So instead of 8,000,009, you're thinking 7,000,000. You said 1,300,000?
Exactly. So I was estimating that basically we're going to be short almost 16.5% in general sales tax. And it seems like to me, if there's some discretionary things that we can delay expenses on in the first part of the year to give us a little bit of a push, I think we ought to consider those things, immediately in the budget so that we have a little bit of a push. And sure, everybody's speculating a lot on, I've been staring at all those crazy maps, all the Colorado Springs ordinances, trying to figure out, what they're going to do. Are they going to relax that 1 mile restriction? Okay, which effectively means there are no expansion. Are they going to cut that in half, and allow a few, the whole 9 yards? So it just seems like to me, we ought to be looking at anything in our budget that does not have to be spent in the first, let's say 4 or 5 months until we get a better handle on what's going on, so that we prioritize some of those things as to whether, we need to spend that money in the first 6 months. Okay. And if everything goes well, we can kind of maybe turn some of that stuff back on. But that's just my concern is that we, so that that was my estimate, is that we'll be short about $1.3 million for the year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Denise, you want to respond?
Yeah, I told the department heads a week ago when we had our department head meeting that the first quarter of next year, we are not to spend anything except for those that we have grants and like Soda Springs Park, those things that's already under contract. But all other capital and other projects, unless if it's in the enterprise, is not to be spent, so we can get a sense of what happens. I'm thinking by March, we'll have a good sense of where they're going and what occurs. So that's the direction I gave about a week ago, that we will hold off on all those expenditures until March and then probably come back to council at that time with a revised budget.
So is there a good way of kind of getting a handle on, maybe Becca, you probably understand this granularity. In the first 4 months of the year, do we have any big lump sum things that normally would go out the door? You know what I mean? Payments, things like that. In other words, like as an example,
mean like
how
a
do we,
loan
how do we reimburse, and share back, that lodging tax and stuff to the chamber? Do we remit those payments quarterly as
It is quarterly. So the first payment would be January for the full quarter. So
Okay.
that's-
So
yeah.
we pay at the beginning of the quarter, not at the end of the quarter.
At the beginning of the quarter.
Okay. So are there any other, I'm just trying to figure out if there are any, I was thinking of the chamber, what other kinds of things that go out in let's say the first quarter or even the second quarter.
There's some lease purchase payments, but we're kind
Yeah,
of
but we're,
And the cog.
obligated. That's March,
okay, so that's in the first quarter as well.
March
So-
1st. It needs to be
so-
going out.
So let's see, I think that was an easy number to remember this year because it had 685 in the first 3 letters, right? Because I think last year was what, 670 or something like that.
Something like that.
Okay, All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise.
Couple of other things that go out is our IT software programs that we have to do. And is one of the things that we've done is renegotiated that IT, and with Rain Tech, we're looking at that negotiation, which will save about $68,000. So we're working on that right now on that contract. But there's a couple of IT software programs that we do need to pay for to keep us secure.
Thank you.
Oh, and insurance is paid quarterly and at the beginning of the quarter. So.
Questions or comments over on this side? Okay. No, I think the points, Julie and John, that you're making about us taking a cautious and conservative look at the future, I think that's good. I think I'd be okay with adopting this budget with, yeah, so we can go through it any time of the year and modify the budget. We can change it. So I think, my inclination would be to go with this, and then as we do several things, as Denise said, hold off spending money. Let's be as conservative as we can until we get a better sense of what the effect is going to be, to the extent that we can determine it. So maybe that's March or April. We can come back and visit the budget then. And in the meantime, if we just make sure that the city doesn't spend any money that we're not already committed to, I think that'd be a good direction going forward. So that's my take on it. Julie, please.
Oh, just to follow up on what you just said, I think it's important for the city to be willing to spend money on things that will make us money, such as the Dillon, things where we're going to be making money and actually making a profit. I don't have a problem with that, but I do want to look at other things that we're spending and seeing if some of them can be put on hold, suspended. I specifically want to look at the COG payment and have that not go out until we have a chance to discuss it. And I also have a question, Becca. It seems like you never know when the profits from the marijuana businesses will be reported to the state. So are we necessarily going to have a lot more, or what additional information might we have by March of 25, for example, in terms of, I would imagine there's no information coming from Colorado Springs at that point about their resolution or their,
Right, their ordinance.
charter amendment in their ordinance. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can see whether or not that ordinance holds. And in my opinion, if the marijuana stores are only on the east side, that'll help Manitou.
I haven't seen anything about that. What's the deal about the east side only?
They passed an ordinance that the retail marijuana has to be a mile away from schools and childcare facilities. And when they look at the map, really that puts all the retail marijuana sales over on the east side of Colorado Springs.
So that,
I've stared at that map, and as near as I can tell, that 1 mile thing, there is no location, which is not within that thing. It's effectively a ban. It's
So it would, and that's what they're talking about. It would have to push it out on the east,
Yeah.
way on the east side.
but it has to go an existing location. Okay, with an existing license.
that's why I don't think the 1,000 feet is gonna make a difference.
Well, no,
The
the
1
1 mile.
mile, I mean.
I just don't
Because
see
the
how
law
that.
already says that they're going to allow the existing medical marijuana stores to sell recreational, period. It doesn't say PS, except for the ones that are a mile away from the school.
Mhm.
So I think the old ordinance is being replaced by the new ordinance, but maybe that's something that a judge is gonna have to decide. I don't know. But I wouldn't assume that 1 mile distance ordinance is still in existence, that it still applies.
Mhm.
The reason I asked the question though is, it's always convenient for us to kick the can down the road, but I don't think we're necessarily going to know a hell of a lot more by March. We'll have a little more information, but at some point we have to sit down and do some hard thinking about how to plan for the future. I don't want us to be caught with our pants down and suddenly, oh my goodness, be short millions of dollars because we didn't want to do any estimating. We just wanted to wait and see what happens. That doesn't sound like a good way to run a city to me. I mean,
No, I agree. And excuse me, what's the old adage? Dig your well before you get thirsty, something like that. Anyway, no, I get what you're saying, Julie. I'm saying, Natalie, you had a comment.
I'm just wondering if it would help if we scheduled a retreat now for next year to have this conversation, if that would make you feel better, that we weren't kicking the can down the road.
if it's before January 1st, when all these monies are going to go out, I mean, that's the whole point. All this money's going to go out the first quarter, especially in January 1st, the chamber, the IT software, the COG kickback, all of the raises and the merit raises and the COLAs for the employees I mean, all this stuff is happening in January and we're going to talk about it in maybe March or April. That doesn't seem responsible to me personally. I don't run my personal life that way financially. And I don't see why the city should just wait till March or April and put, if we're going to put something on the calendar, I think it needs to be really soon.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure who was first here. Michelle and then Judith, please.
I understand we have a meeting with the consultants on December 3rd. How important is that meeting? We're not in contract with anything.
Well, this would be the workshop, December 3rd. It's actually to discuss three interrelated things: the Hiawatha Gardens, the Dillon Motel, and the Chase Bank property. So last, when we talked about this, I think it was October the 15th, we sort of got wrapped around the axle. We wanted more information from Eric and the consultants. So that would be Eric, the architect, and there's one or two other people who are involved. So that'd be just more background on those three topics.
Yeah, I think that meeting is still important. And, mind you, the marijuana tax isn't necessarily going to affect the mobility enterprise, the parking and mobility enterprise, which is where our Dillon and Hiawatha money comes from. I'm talking about the general reserves where our marijuana money goes. That's a whole different thing. The water enterprise, the parking enterprise, whatever else we have, the sewer enterprise, all those enterprises, they do their own thing and they get, I'm talking about the reduction in income going to our general fund. Things that get paid out of the general fund, some of those won't get paid because we're going to be short. So I just thought we should plan ahead. Where might we be looking at potential cuts? But I'm not talking about the Dillon or anything that comes out of an enterprise fund. To me, that's not pertinent.
Okay, thank you. Judith, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that it's very prudent for us to be mindful of what's going to happen here. However, I'm not in panic mode because, as we well know, marijuana sales statewide have been decreasing for, 4 or 5 years at least, on an average of, depending on where you are, up to 12%. And it's my understanding that we have been kind of putting at least a certain percentage of a placeholder, knowing that's my understanding, right? That we're kind of saying, look, we've got to be really mindful of that. The other thing, the reason I'm not in panic mode, and I think we have some time to prepare, is that even if this happens, Colorado Springs is going to have a lot of work ahead of them. There's going to be licensing, permitting, there's going to be CUPs. And I think in the first quarter of 2025 to get together and have a meeting, I think is prudent, but I don't think it's going to really start affecting us, our bottom line, until 2026 is my thinking, given everything that they're going to have to put in place. And there's still a lot of interest in Colorado Springs, El Paso County area to restrict as much as possible where these shops go. So that will be an interesting thing to see happen. So yes, we need to do it, and I'm not panicked yet. Are we setting aside a kind of adding to our reserve, knowing that, and what percentage is that we kind of keep our eye on?
Well,
No.
that was one of the reasons why we didn't have a capital improvement retreat earlier in 2024. We were saying we need to conserve the capital, I mean, the fund balance, keep it at a higher rate. This is much higher a rate than is required or is considered best practices by the Government Finance Officers Association. Usually they say 2 months, which is about 17%, and we've got probably about 4 months worth, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we've been deliberately keeping it up higher than that because we knew that something like this was going to be coming down the pike.
So in finishing, I'm comfortable in approving the budget tonight, and because of the 15th of December deadline and the need to lock in the mill levy.
Thank you. Nancy, did you have anything you want to say on this?
Just that I agree. I'm not in a panic mode. So thank you for that term. I think it's a good one. I also know that we have a very conservative financial officer in Becca, and this is one of the largest reserves I think we've ever had. And I know that Denise is keeping a very close eye and is thinking about this, and I'm sure it keeps her up at night. So I have great deal of confidence that our staff will help us through this, and I am perfectly comfortable in approving this budget as it's been presented. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would, I'd be comfortable passing this tonight and I think on second reading, but at the same time, I think in a sense, this is getting this piece of work off the table, meeting the deadline, and then refocusing so we can really keep a close eye on the situation, assess what we think the consequences are going to be, come up with some reasonable scenarios, and maybe bring Neil and Ann back and start doing some forecasting. And I could see where, you know, we're holding off on big projects because we just don't know, and I think that's the prudent thing to do. And then maybe in the February, March timeframe, we go through and adjust based on experience and improved intelligence. That'd be my thought. But I think the concerns that some of you expressed are certainly very reasonable. But I'm not panicking to the extent that I want to hold up staff and hold up the budget. Any other comments, Denise?
Mayor, a couple of things. I do want to mention, I think we've been talking about this for the last 3 years, and we've been building a very strong reserves when this occurred. I think we all knew it was going to happen. It's why I've been pretty fiscally responsible with our capital request and what has happened. There are a couple of things that we will need to spend the first quarter on, and there are safety issues. 15,000 for the police radios that we need to do. And I think it's 50,000 for the fire siren upgrades, which we really need to do those. There's other ones like the Ruxton Corridor, Creek Walk, and those which are coming in from other avenues. So those will not come out of the general fund, but they're projects that we will continue to work on along with Ruxton in those aspects. And then Soda Springs Park, we have signed that contract, so we will be working on that. As I mentioned, everything else we will be putting on hold until we get a sense of where we're going and what happens with this. And we'll, as always, we'll be watching it. And you're right, I think it keeps all of us up at night right now as we manage through this. But I do believe that we're in a healthy place as we work through this, and we'll find the right solutions.
Thank you.
May I just make one more?
Judith and then
one more-
John.
The other thing that keeps me up at night is the water tower. So I think we need to make sure that we follow through with all the new water tower and any repairs that we have to make on the existing water tower. I don't think that's an option.
Yeah, that's the enterprise. So the water tower should be done hopefully by the end of December. We are going to DOLA as you passed a resolution tonight for the rehab of the second. And then we're starting all the work on the water plant right now. So those will continue to go. So there's still capital projects that will be done, and they're in the enterprise, not the general fund, or they're coming in with grants or those type of things that we've already approved and moving forward on.
John, I think you had a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to move approval of ordinance 1224 with the changes that accompany the memorandum.
Second.
Excuse me, and for clarification, John, when you say the changes that come with the memorandum does that mean as
I think
presented
we should
or?
identify those for the
well,
record.
Well,
Just
they're
to
pretty
read it.
lengthy, okay, but it just says that there were changes made to some of the items, okay, in the memorandum in terms of, and I can read them all in here if you can't read that in there.
Oh, no, okay, now I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I get but that really, that's as presented. I mean, that's.
Right,
Denise,
exactly.
Yes, okay,
right.
then that's fine. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, could
I'm
you-
just making sure that, because if somebody were to look at the October 12th budget, these numbers have changed. So
Mhm.
I'm just trying to point
Okay,
that out.
could I ask you to restate the motion?
I just move approval of ordinance 1224 with the financial impact notes in the memorandum that is attached to the ordinance, which I believe that, you know, the ordinance and itself only just has essentially the overview, right? In terms of the general summary. Okay, and so those changes are in the general summary, but the rest of the budget as well has those other little nitsy changes that you talked about.
Right, the
Okay.
one that's online, we've made all those changes.
Exactly. Right.
That was helpful. Thank you for explaining that. Nancy, you had seconded. Are you still good with that? Okay, so we have motion a second. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. And we appreciate the work, Becca, that you and Denise and staff have done and all the department heads. It's not easy.
It's definitely a group effort.
It's our best guess, and we're going to continue to watch it, monitor it closely, and tweak it as necessary. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, first reading of ordinance number 1124, an ordinance amending section 5.04.030 of the Manitou Springs Municipal Code, adding an exemption from the city's business license requirements for certain retailers without a physical presence in the city or with only an incidental physical presence in the city. And just as a side, welcome back. Yeah, I should have mentioned that Mr. Parker, we didn't think we needed him tonight, so he is on Lifeline. We could always give him a call, but we thought we'd give him the night off and save ourselves a little money. So if we need Jeff, we've got him. But Becca, you have the floor.
Good evening again. So this ordinance is basically a bit of housekeeping for our business license code. Due to changes in the state law, our code was out of alignment with the code with the state. So this ordinance changes Manitou's code, so it is no longer in conflict with the state. So, and Jeff Parker wrote this ordinance for us to make sure it was doing what it was supposed to be doing. So are there any questions concerning this?
Nancy?
Yeah, Becca, I'm just curious. You say that we have less than 20 businesses for these types of entities. I assume Amazon is one of them.
Oh, actually, Amazon is not one. It's
Could you give us
usually,
examples?
it's usually contractors who come in and do work every now and then in the city. So our question is always, do you think you'll be in the city for 7 or more calendar days within the year? And if they say yes, then we make them get a business license. Well, now we won't unless they're going to be here pretty often. So it was really affecting the contractors. So I'm trying to think. So what you're thinking of is retailers who ship things here. We've never made them do business
Yeah,
licenses
that's,
because
because that was the only thing I could think of.
No,
So
no,
I
it's-
had no idea what types of businesses this would entail.
it's
So
really the
the
contractor.
total impact is basically about $1,200.
Más o menos. It's the best estimate we could come up with
Okay.
at the time.
Yeah, and I was just curious, so
Yeah.
no impact. Thanks.
Well, there's a bit of an impact,
Yeah.
but we can't
Yeah.
make them get licenses anymore.
Thanks.
Guess, Becca, for the purpose of illustration, I'm thinking maybe, we hire somebody to come in and put up rain gutters or fix a furnace or something. They're based in Colorado Springs. They come over here, they do the work but they're not really physically located here. Those applicable
Right,
examples then?
exactly. They come and they have enough time that they're here more than seven or more days. And we would make them get a business license because of our code.
I think that's helpful.
So it was really so that we didn't have to require lemonade stands to get a business license. But other than that, we were pretty much putting the hammer down on everyone.
Okay. Council, other questions? Comments? Seems like this is largely an exercise in bookkeeping or housekeeping, I would say.
Housekeeping.
Yeah. If there's no other questions or comments, I guess I would look for a motion to approve. So Julie, please.
Move to approve ordinance 1124.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second that and add and set a public hearing for December 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard.
Great. Thank you. Any further discussion then? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank
Becca, are you
you.
going to stay for the backflow?
No, I will be departing now, but I leave you in good hands with Sean.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is first reading of ordinance number 1324, an ordinance repealing and reenacting chapter 13.09 of the Manitou Springs Municipal Code concerning cross connections and backflow prevention for the city's potable water system.
Mayor, if I could do a quick introduction.
Please.
This is Sean Dearborn. He is our ORC operator record on call or whatever it is for the state. It's their acronym and it's required for all of our distribution. It's the first time I think that we've been in compliance with an ORC in our distribution. We have one now at our water, at the water treatment, and then we also have one at our distribution. So we are fortunate to bring Sean on. He has years of experience. And with that, I will have him introduce the backflow ordinance and the reason for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. You have the floor and welcome to Manitou.
Thank you. The reason for this is in 2023, we were in violation by not getting all of our backflow ordinances on time.
Could you move the microphone just a little closer
You
there?
got
Tony?
it. Is that better?
3 inches, something like that. Thank you.
Perfect. So this is to ensure that the city has a way to enforce the ordinances and regulations of the backflow testing that is state regulated by the state of Colorado. And this will also help us stay in compliance in future years.
Mayor, I do want to mention, if that's okay, that almost every year we're out of compliance trying to get everybody to get it done. And we've really never had any teeth. And this allows that to occur because if we aren't in compliance, we have to send out a tier 3.
I'm pretty sure it's a tier 3 violation.
Tier 3 violation, which means we have to send an email, we have to send a letter out to everybody, we have to notify all the media, et cetera, et cetera. So this allows us to really put that teeth and make sure that we can get it done in time and report it to the state as needed.
And it ensures us as a city that we can tell everybody that the water is safe to drink. Because otherwise, if there's a faulty backflow device and an emergency happens on one of the pipes, it can create a back siphon event and siphon any water out of anything in any building. And there's no way to control that without a backflow device that is working properly.
Thank you. And I think we have some questions. Nancy, please.
Again, this is just curiosity, but has that happened where our water supply has been contaminated because of backflow issues?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thanks.
Other questions from council or? Oh, sorry, Judith.
I have a few questions. First of all, I just wanted to make sure that I'm a little confused with some of the language. Item E, under definitions, it's on page 3 of the 8-page ordinance, a backflow prevention method. And you have the definition means any method and or non-testable device is that correct? Because it's my understanding it should be a testable device.
Yeah, I think that's a typo. There should be a testable
Yeah,
device.
so because then it otherwise conflicts with item I,
Yeah,
the definition of controlled. So just to change that to testable
yeah.
device. Also, so do we have a certified cross connection control technician? Is that you or?
No,
Would we have to hire that out?
So it is also written in this code that the property owners would born that. And so they would have to contract their own certified
Oh,
backflow
I
tester.
see. Okay.
We as the city have two, and that would be Dwayne Bean, the supervisor of the water and sewer department, and Dan Olson, one of my lead operators in the water department. They're both licensed backflow devices, backflow testers.
And since there weren't any cost estimates, I looked online to find out, get a guesstimate on what this might cost a business or it looks like it's mainly businesses and multifamily dwelling units.
Yes.
Or a single family dwelling unit if there's a cross connection on the property.
Such as a fire
Okay.
suppression system.
And this sprinkler system is a little bit different category, but so you stated in the memorandum that you have a software program. Is that how you detect cross connection issues citywide? In other words, let's say at my house, I have a cross connection.
Yeah.
But it's not faulty. I mean, how do you contact me and then, you tell me that I have a cross connection, that it's up to me to take care of it?
So the water and sewer department does inspections on new connections. That's when we would notify you of a cross connection.
Okay.
And we would tell you that it is per city regulations that you need to put in a testable backflow device. And then in which items, then you would have one installed and tested immediately. And then from that point on, it would be understood that yearly you would have to test that backflow device for proper operation.
Okay, so just looking online, I looked at, I saw a range of prices up to $1,400
Yeah.
for,
If not more.
if not more. Well, because it's not just the correcting the problem, it's the annual inspection and so on and so forth. What if you have a situation where, or do we have in place a method where if someone has to pay for that and can't afford it up front, because I see you give 120 days, one of the penalties is shutting off the water flow for a business or a housing situation to make payments. Is that possible? Because if this happens, I mean, I don't know if it happened to me, that might be a financial burden. So how would that be handled?
Denise,
So
would you-
this is part of doing business and it's something that they've had to do every year. So it's not a new charge. They have to do this every year. We are just putting deadlines and dates that it has to be done. That's the difference that this does. It's something that's been required for years, every single year, and it's part of doing business. They know that. Most of them have someone that they use, so they know what the fee is every year. They know what's required to make sure that this is completed.
I see. So we've had some violations. Is that because people didn't do what they were supposed to do and missed the deadline? So this ordinance basically just tightens this up. Is that what we're doing tonight? Is it?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, this is doing exactly what's always been required, but it allows us to say it has to be done by a certain date so that we can meet the state deadline.
I see.
That's absolutely required, else we have to do all these tier 3 notifications.
And then when the business or entity, it's their responsibility when they hire someone, they've got to make sure that they get all this criteria met, like the person has to be licensed and provide a license number and
Mhm.
an expiration date for the license. So that's on the business entity or
Yep.
the, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're following the state recommendation of how to do this. And I've also looked at other municipalities' water, and this is very similar to what most do. We just have never done it. We've never had any teeth in it.
I see. That clarifies it for me. Thank you. That answers my questions. I appreciate it.
And we have the program that was referred to earlier, that just tells us when they report their backflow testing to the state. So then we are notified that they are in compliance. And if they are not, we can notify them that they need to be tested.
Thank you. More comments, questions? I guess not. Maybe we're ready for a motion?
I move to approve on first reading ordinance 1324, an ordinance repealing and reenacting chapter 13.09 of the Manitou Springs Municipal Code concerning cross connections and backflow prevention for the city's potable water system with one correction. And that is on page 3, item E, backflow prevention method, that non-testable be corrected to testable.
We motion is second. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Oh, yeah, Denise, please.
Yeah, I just want to make one statement. The ORC is operator in responsible charge is what it stands for, which means that Sean is truly reports to the state. And if we don't do the right thing, it's him that's held responsible. So he has a huge amount of responsibility and has to make sure that we're in compliance, because it's his license and it's his reputation, and the state will hold him personally responsible.
Well, okay. Thank you. No pressure, Sean. Sleep easy. Okay. Well, council, we got through a fairly long agenda. Congratulations. We're down to receive or act on council correspondence. Does anyone have anything? Michelle?
This Thursday, we have the community engagement here at City Hall regarding the Dillon at 6 p.m.
Thank you. See Nancy?
Yeah, and I brought this up earlier, but I got a call, and a couple of us have gotten calls from a resident about our ambulance service and the fact that it does apparently, I don't have all the answers yet, but apparently doesn't have doesn't take most insurance, but I don't know if that's true or not. So I believe staff is checking into that and will help get back with her. But it's very expensive if you're paying out of network charges. So.
Right. Thank you. Anything over on this side of the table? Okay. Oh, good. Sure, Julie.
Well, I just want to thank the Climate Action Work Group, the board, the vendors, the attendees, the speakers for an incredibly successful Climate Action Expo. Allison Gerbig was there and others, and we had a full house, and it was just a really exciting, wonderful evening. And the residents have been very vocal in helping us formulate our 2025 climate change action plan. So I just wanted to thank the city for the tremendous effort and a great success.
Good. Thank you. And I'll mention, yeah, I was talking to someone who's lived here for about 6 months, and he and his wife went to that climate action potluck. He said they had a great time and his wife's going to volunteer and be part of that. So it's helping them meld into the community, he said. So I thought that was a very favorable comment. So also, I also got a call from the same individual that Nancy spoke to regarding the ambulance service. So we'll see where that goes. I noticed in the bulletin this last Friday's edition, there was a letter from a woman, Camille, I believe, Lipinski. She indicated that she had sent a letter to City Council on October the 6th and hadn't gotten a response. I don't remember it. I checked through my emails and whatnot. I have no recollection of it. But so if anybody has gotten that communication, if you want, form it to me, but I'm not sure that, I don't know if any of us got it. I couldn't find anything in my records, and I think I would remember that. I try to respond to those kinds of things. Then next week we'll be off. It's Thanksgiving week, so I hope you all have a good holiday and get some rest. And then 2 weeks from now, December the 3rd, I believe it is, we'll meet. We'll start at 2:00 in the afternoon with a work session to discuss the Hiawatha Gardens, the Dillon and the Chase bank properties. So we'll spend from 2 to 5:30 on that. We'll have a modest dinner here. We'll be back in the city administration area while they reconfigure the room. And then we'll have our regular meeting starting at 6. Anything else? Great. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll go on to the city administrator's report.
I really don't have anything except that this week I will say happy Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving and that's all I have. Thank you. And yes, Thursday, we need everybody here for the Dillon. That's really important. We're only having one community engagement meeting. So this is the one and only community engagement for the public for the Dillon, unless if you give us different direction, but to meet the deadline, that's really important as we move forward. Of course. Yeah, we'll post it. We'll make sure that we post the meeting.
And before we adjourn, if I might interject, our wonderful Sally is in the back and she has snacks and I think decaf and stuff for us. So before you go, feel free to pick up some of her yummy stuff. Oh, and I think that's Becky with her. So, yeah.
Good point. So thanks to the Manitou Springs Women's Club, and very specifically to Sally and Becky. Great. If there's nothing else, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Sure. Okay, motion,
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. The voice will go. Okay, thank you. All right. So happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.